Cambodia, deep in history and rich in culture. When Cambodian motorbike tours asked if I'd like to film their jungle tour, I said, hell yes. Plenty of creek crossings, rickety bridges, beach riding, and even a jungle where the tigers still roam. Throw in a pile of Aussie dirt riders, upmarket accommodation, cheap beer and spectacular food, it promises to be an epic adventure. Phnom Penh is the capital of Cambodia. Before we even touch the bikes, we need a crash course in handling Southeast Asian traffic. It looks like a completely chaotic game of dodgem cars, but there's a method to the madness. So we head out in some tuk-tuks to learn the system. Unlike Western driving where we aggressively guard our territory, in Cambodia it's about respect and working together to move a shitload of bizarre-looking vehicles through the streets with a minimum amount of fuss or aggro. So, a quick bit of geography. Cambodia is tucked in nicely between Thailand and Vietnam, and our first leg is from Phnom Penh down south to a posh beachside hotel at Kep. Before we explore this land of 1,000 shades of green, we need to get out from the city. The gridlocked traffic eases as we head out, and we hope the corner marking system keeps our motley crew together through the outer suburbs. Most riders are on the Yamaha TTR 250s, and Emma makes the most of the lounge chair seat. There's even a KTM 300 and a few of us on WR 450Fs.
How freaking cool is this? Don't see a lot of rice paddies back in Australia.
Once we're off the main roads, then it's open season for wheelies. The locals were constantly asking us to do wheelies, and as invited guests, we wanted to do the right thing. Sandy single track? Just what the doctor ordered. We quickly realised the terrain was going to change constantly throughout this trip, as we do a loop of the western half of the country. Cambodia is definitely on the warm side, so regular stops in the shade are a good chance to hydrate and chill. Well, until you realise you might be next to an old minefield.
Apparent minefield cleared.
Yep, Cambodia has a brutal history, both internally with their leader Pol Pot murdering millions and being bombed by the USA for 4 years. The warm smiles of the locals is something of a miracle. Given the torture this country has been through, we'll explore some of that stuff later. This young larrikin is Chris Perry, one of Australia's top hard enduro riders, invited on the trip to do a bit of coaching with us Gumbies. He was off the track more than on it with the TTR, as he was preparing for Australia's hard enduro, Wildwood Rock. Why is the TTR 250 the bike of choice for Cambodia? It's rough, it's tough, and unrelentingly powerful. This Yamaha has been known to survive nuclear blasts and is massively powerful. And it comes with impressive features like a seat, exhaust, and handlebars. Are your gonads big enough? TTR.
Suicide! Suicide!
My fascination with languages is unfortunately linked with a complete inability to pronounce things correctly. At our regular stops, the villages surround us and I fumble my way through some basic Khmer phrases. The problem? Khmer, the Cambodian language, is tonal, and if you go up or down on the wrong syllable, instead of saying hello, you might be asking to borrow someone's buffalo for some physical intimacy. To date, I've caused a few international incidents in various countries this way, and the Cambodians certainly looked a lot happier when I left their villages. No doubt, I can soon add Cambodia to the list of countries that have blacklisted me. All of us on this ride are superb, physically fit specimens, but I must admit we all look forward to these rest breaks to cool off and get some water back into the system.
Okay, got a flat tyre. The guy said they'll fix it for me, so I get to ride a TTR now.
There are sections of sealed road and highway regularly throughout the day. These actually work out to be good rest breaks. Even with our rock-hard chiselled bodies, the hot weather and dirt sections are taking their toll. And the highway is a good chance to relax and let some air flow through our sweaty gear. Closer to the coast, the terrain changes again. More palm trees appearing and some incredible rock formations. A few of us attempted to try a hill climb, but the temptation of cold beer and a swim in the hotel pool proves irresistible. Interesting to note, Cambodia is not immune to the climate change being experienced around the world. This would normally be the tail end of the wet season, but it's been unseasonably dry, so there's a lot of dust. Not much of the mud and loamy tracks we were expecting. Mind you, there are plenty of creek crossings and ground bikes coming up, but these first few days are drier and dustier than normal. Later in the trip, a few of us were talking about the accommodation. We were kind of expecting to be sleeping in hammocks under a straw roof, and then we pull into hotels like this that can't be far short of 4 stars.
Was there a bit of dust today?
A little bit, yeah.
These, yeah,
A little bit.
But it seems universal. Dust. Dirty, filthy enduro riders.
Clean teeth, bud. Yeah, clean teeth.
Clean teeth.
Keep the mouth closed.
Yeah, another dirty man. Dirty. Bit of a dirt mo.
Been growing it for a while.
Yeah, mate, all day.
Over there, you've been brown-nosing someone, mate.
Well, I've got to get to the top somehow.
Sunrise on our second day of riding. Today we'll be heading from Kep to another coastal town, Sihanoukville. Our posh hotel turns on our first of many buffet breakfasts while our trusty steeds wait for some beach riding. An unusual aspect of Cambodia is there is so much awesome single trail, but of course they are just tracks for pedestrians, cyclists or the occasional scooter. And often we are actually riding through people's backyards. Do this in the West and property owners would be shooting at you, but in Cambodia they love it. Of course, the trick is to not ride like an idiot, respect the locals and make sure you wave hello, especially to the kids. And then a pile of dirt bikes in your backyard turns into some great entertainment for the Cambodian villagers.
So Chris Perry, I can see you're overwhelmed with the power of the TTR.
It's a little bit too much. Maybe we can tame it down a bit for the sand, I think.
From the beach and into our first bit of jungle. While this is called the Jungle Tour, in reality we are riding all sorts of terrain that connects up various jungles in Cambodia. Plenty of ducking under fallen trees on many of the tracks. And despite this being an unseasonably dry time of the year, there are plenty of slippery corners to wake up unsuspecting riders. Most Australians are the descendants of convicts, and of course we act accordingly. To keep us under control, there is a system of fines for bad behaviour or riding that goes into a kitty for cold beer at the end of the day. Needless to say, there was a lot of beer to drink at the end of each day. Each crash, $2.50 into the beer kitty. Each wheelie on a main highway or in a village is $2.50 into the beer kitty. Chris Perry and I love wheelies, as do all the Cambodians. So whenever we figured we were out of the village and not on a main highway, wheelies were on, for young and old. Now it's time for a love story. Emma Broadbent and Chris Perry have been called Australia's first couple of hard enduro, although they debate that. But there's no doubt they are a class act. Emma took out first place in the women's class at Australia's National Extreme Enduro Wildwood Rock, and Chris is always in the top 10 in the pro class. The couple that rides together stays together, and now they are entering international events like the Sea to Sky and Romaniacs. Thankfully, they were in cruise most of the time in Cambodia. Might be unseasonably dry for what is meant to be the end of the wet season, but there's still plenty of water and mud around.
We've got Cambodian peak hour.
Is there a best time to ride Cambodia? It probably comes down to personal preference. Apparently the wet season is slightly cooler and the afternoon showers are a good way to cool down too. But there's plenty of mud and water if that's your cup of tea. The conditions for our ride more typical of the dry season, so take your pick. One thing's for sure, everyone seems to have a hoot, no matter what time of the year they ride in Cambodia. The Cambodian motorbike tour guys said, a common question is how well do you need to ride to do one of these trips? I think it's safe to say you'd want a reasonable amount of dirt riding experience under your belt, or you would simply get too exhausted and need the support riders to push your bike through tough sections or ride it for you. But you don't need to be a top rider. And if you want more challenge, there are plenty of tough lines out there on the tracks. Chris and Emma were regularly taking very nasty looking detours, and I'd join them occasionally. But if you know the basics of riding in mud, hopping logs, and dealing with everyday obstacles, I reckon you'd be fine on one of these trips. Look at all these really prickly vines. One of the guys crashed into them. Woohoo! Chris stops to mess around on this rock, and I'm glad he's on a TTR 250. He would probably do something insane on his normal KTM. I'd try to copy him, and I'd wind up in hospital for the next 6 months.
Man, these plants are nasty. Now I've got one on this side.
Everyone has different techniques for the mud bogs. Some charge through and spear off into the trees or wind up with the bike on top of them. Others, like me, take the slow, cautious approach.
No, I like it nice and slow.
And Chris tends to charge through, but always in control.
How do you feel being shown up by your girlfriend through that mud puddle?
Well, I'm getting used to it now. She's getting better and better each day, so I'm going to have to book in for a few coaching sessions off her and see how to do this smoothly, because I end up putting a foot down, so that's 3 points, I think, is it, in trials?
Go, Chris.
Damn, maybe Chris isn't always in control.
So what do you call that technique, man?
That's the old side stand hanger.
Aha.
Side stand straight into my foot.
Yeah. Nice one, man. They're going down everywhere, man. You've started a chain reaction.
I think one of the Cambodian staff riders is issuing a wheelie challenge. Unlike the DR650, I always had trouble with my old WR450 wheelies. I couldn't hold a wheelie on flat ground at a steady speed. So these straight roads are a great chance to finally get it right on the big Yamaha. Bridges come in all shapes and sizes in Cambodia, and this one was a bit hairier than most. Not as narrow as some, but if you did fall off, there was every chance of being trapped underwater, pinned by your bike, hoping someone liked you enough to jump in and rescue you. The best strategy? Don't look down, look ahead, and ignore that water. A lot of thought has gone into planning these rides. Just when the muscles are flagging and we are making mistakes, the flowing tracks start again and we can relax. Chatting with the organisers, I found out that they could work more dirt riding into the tour, and they can do customised tours like that for private groups. But your average gumbies like us need regular breaks with easy flowing tracks or sealed roads to cool off and recuperate for the next round of dirt tracks. Man, this last bit is fun. After my super light 2-stroke back home, I'm finally coming to grips with the big Yamaha and having a ball trying to stay on Chris Perry's tail, even though he's just cruising along. As the afternoon wears on, the thought of a cool beer in a swimming pool keeps us going all the way to Sihanoukville, a seaside town named after one of Cambodia's princes. Man, it is hard to describe how good it is to sink a poolside tinny and swap tall stories about the day's ride. Day 3, and it's time to start heading north along the west coast to Koh Kong, another seaside town. And it's probably time to show you the bunch of miscreants, reprobates and descendants of convicts on this trip. Good looking? Except for Emma. No way. That's really good. But a sense of adventure? They have it in spades. Thankfully, our bikes come equipped with the latest in high-tech safety equipment.
Got serious horns here in Cambodia.
Along with prayers to the gods of dirt riding.
Helmets as offerings every morning.
Today, we are quickly into the dirt tracks, and Chris Perry is excited as someone has lent him a KTM 350 for the next few days. Chris was already carving up the tracks nicely once he got hang of the Yamaha TTR 250. So, big things are expected now that he's abandoned his rice burner and is back on some Euro trash. It's not long before we are off the beaten track and ducking under plenty of fallen trees. There's not much need for track maintenance in Cambodia. If the locals can walk it or get a bicycle and scooter around obstacles, then there's no need to do any fancy maintenance. And that's just the way we like it. The rougher, the better.
Bloody vine.
Things are about to get interesting. Before we headed off, Chris Perry gave us some basic enduro coaching, such as how to hop logs. The problem? It was a scorching day for the coaching, so most of us watched Chris hopping logs instead of doing the drills ourselves. How did we do? Well, there were some interesting techniques not covered by Chris, but in our book, if you eventually get over without breaking bones, that's a success. We've actually covered 10 different ways to hop logs in our enduro training vids. Get into them if this type of torture appeals to you.
Beer money!
And like any type of torture, it's the rest break at the end that feels so good. No rest for the wicked, the tracks just keep going.
Well, they did call this the jungle tour.
Water crossings are similar to mud bogs, in that some guys go at them like a bull at a gate, others it's slow and cautious. Personally, I go for the latter. I like to stop and find a big stick, then poke around to see if the bottom is firm or muddy and if there are big rocks or logs under the water. Then ease my way through. But if you want to take your chances, then it's anyone's guess whether the slow or fast approach is best. A few bikes get dropped here. There's slippery mud under that dry leaf litter that catches the unwary.
Very boggy. So body position back. It's like soft sand and, well, riding in mud. Body weight well to the rear. Get as much traction on the rear wheel as you can. And of course, little weight on the front so she doesn't bog in.
A good sense of balance makes a world of difference in mud. Chris and Emma both keep up a good pace through the mud with minimal wheel spin and completely in control when the wheels do slide around in the mud. I'm having trouble keeping up with them and eventually get roosted with mud when Chris hits some deeper patches.
Oh no!
Thanks, Chris. We rode through countless Cambodian villages, but this village stood out.
To cool down, number 432.
A few hours of battling through the jungles and forest, suddenly we are in this little oasis, a beautiful river with rock pools and waterfalls.
Oh, that is not very attractive.
If only every hot, sweaty dirt ride had one of these rest stops built in.
Emma, rumour is they'll be organising one of these little rock pools every kilometre or so in the sea to sky.
Oh, beautiful.
Good news.
Wonderful, yeah. That'll be great.
We're technically in the wet season, but they say this is the driest one they've had for ages. Thankfully, this sort of water means we are going to have water today up ahead.
And there are plenty of water crossings ahead.
Hello, trouble in paradise.
Bikes get dropped in the water, but thankfully they usually stall and don't suck water into the engine, thanks in part to the high air intake on the TTR 250 air filter box.
Oh, he didn't drown it. That's amazing. Oh no! Oh my god! TTR.
One of the most important log hop techniques is the punch technique, and it's also useful for climbing vertical faces. You deliberately ram the face with your front wheel. This loads the suspension and makes the bike jump up. Which Chris Perry demonstrates effortlessly on the steepest section.
Yeah, that's it.
As always, the terrain just keeps changing throughout the day. And we emerge from the forests into open rolling hills as we head for a beachside lunch stop. During breaks like this, we were impressed with how hard the Cambodian support crew worked.
Okay, world's best support team for Cambodian ride tours, possibly internationally.
They were constantly fixing things that we broke or bent, and at the end of the day would spend hours on basic maintenance. So all we had to do was ride. On toward the seaside town of Koh Kong. And all that water crossing practice will hopefully pay off on this tricky one. There are a few different lines. All of them seem equally difficult. I'm keen to see if I can do it without putting a foot down, but something under the water pushes me onto a harder line. Like many, I eventually need help to drag the bike out.
Two bikes down at once. This is our tour leader. If he stuffs up, going nice and gentle. Oh, look at the style. That's style. Yeah, you wouldn't want to fall that side.
Those rickety bridges keep popping up too, just to get the heart rate up and make sure none of us fall asleep on our bikes.
It's interesting to see what the wet season's like. We've only got tiny bits of mud at the moment. I mean, a real wet season. This is the wet season. This is the dry one.
A common comment from the guys was the bikes were generally better than expected. The Yamahas are a good choice, and having a good sized support team means that any problems were fixed quickly and the bikes were in pretty good nick considering the abuse they copped. The tour operators also pay these locals well above the normal pay rates, which is nice to know.
Come on, Bull. You can do it.
On top of that, we always had a qualified paramedic riding with us, which was handy at several points during the trip, especially when a rider argued with a cow about the local traffic rules.
As it's riding in Cambodia, one of the guys has just hit a calf and gone for a slide on the road. The handy thing though is having a fully trained paramedic.
After so much dirt riding today, the final section on road comes as something of a relief for weary bones. A few of the guys still have plenty of energy though, and decide to get some road racing practice in. Who knows, we might see some highly modified TDR 250s in the MotoGP soon. Another action-packed day ends in a beautiful hotel that is reminiscent of Cambodia's French colonial past. As the sun sets, the scenery just gets better and better. A tasty Cambodian curry while overlooking the river, a good night's sleep, and then tomorrow we'll be riding through a jungle that actually has tigers in it. Good morning, Cambodia. Ah, the serenity. This beautiful riverside hotel shows the influence of France when they colonised Cambodia for over 50 years. You have to wonder what the Frenchies made of this green, wet, tropical land. Today we are heading inland to Camus, where we'll be staying in more traditionally styled Cambodian accommodation. And what better way to kick off a new day than by conserving our front tyre rubber. This concrete highway winds its way through a mountain range with spectacular views along the way. Has the trip been acceptable so far?
Exceptional. Sensational.
Chris Perry gets a little lost and tries to take the old bridge across the river. Then he gets even more confused and can't find the way back. He finally gets it sorted and we push on. Actually, Chris Perry has frequent navigational issues and often couldn't work out how to even cross a shallow river. The locals show him it ain't that hard if you think about it. Yeah, I don't know whether this meets building height restrictions. It's something of a limbo dance for some of us.
This will be interesting, guys. This is the start of the Tiger Trail, and we've just had the warning about cobras and what else? I don't know, rabid hippos and I don't know, all sorts of shit. It's going to be interesting.
More dangerous than the tigers and snakes is the bamboo. This is regularly cut back in a way that leaves sharp ends exposed. It's lucky we have a trained paramedic. There are no problems for the locals, but a dirt rider spearing off the track could wind up skewered on that bamboo.
These rocks are interesting too. Very slippery when they're wet.
The Tiger Trail is hot and humid, and we stop when one of the guys overheats from pulling his bike out of mud holes. Now, I don't know if he's paid for this or he's overcooked or...
No, he paid for a special VIP treatment. In and out of the jungle.
Is there a happy ending? They're queuing up now.
You have to book the pay to find out if there's a happy ending.
One more join.
Something a bit odd going on here. We got this. How you doing? On the second half of the Tiger Trail, Chris and Emma shoot ahead, and it turns into a jungle race where I barely avoid shitting myself trying to keep up. Man, those guys are fast. This will appear in one of our upcoming supporter vids. We've ridden past so many temples, now we finally get to explore one. As usual, I haven't listened to the rider briefing, so I pop a wheelie on the long driveway. I'm not sure if wheelies are allowed in Buddhism, but I'm sure they would be pretty chilled about it anyway. The fourth largest religion in the world, Buddhism is also one of the most peaceful and has rarely been used to inspire violence and hatred, unlike all the other major religions. Buddhism is all about moving toward nirvana as you get reincarnated. You might, say, start as a monkey, then a lowly KTM rider, then work your way through the Japanese models, and eventually maybe a beta, then nirvana. Buddhism also has something to do with the sound of one hand clapping or a one-stroke engine firing. This temple also includes a memorial to the various killing methods of the Khmer Rouge, those sick fucks who deliberately murdered a quarter of the Cambodian population in the 1970s. Up to 3 million Cambodians were killed, and many by the most gruesome forms of torture you could imagine. I suspect the peaceful nature of Buddhism has much to do with how far the country has healed itself since those horrors. And the presence of old embattlements is a reminder of Cambodia's war-torn past. I could see the massive respect our tour leaders have for the local people, as wherever we went, they would be striking up conversations with the locals. On to more pleasant topics, it's time to head for our more traditional accommodation for the night.
Everything's been 3 to 4-star hotels. This is our first homestay, a bit more basic, but it's going to be perfect, I think, for filthy dirt riders.
Special rehydration beers are cracked open as our weary troops arrive. This is home sweet home for me. Our amazing support crew prepares to work on our bikes into the night. This is, oh man, Dara's got a messy job. These are some dusty air filters.
Visual
Cleans everything.
Yes.
And I retire to my swing with a rehydratory beer. Good night, Cambodia. Sunrise in Battambang for our final day's riding. And our trusty steeds are calling to us. But first, it's time to fill our bellies. Buffet breakfast, breakfast of champions. Nice and cool in the hotel, but the heat awaits for our pack of dirt riding reprobates. There's been a fair bit of talk about the best ways to stay cool. Some left all their armour behind, others set it safety first and are overheating in their compression suits. For me, the Aussie-built Zac Speed setup is the best of both worlds. Battambang is a big town, so there's a bit more slabbing on the roads until we hit the dirt. But that's fine with us. As mentioned in an earlier vid, the tour leaders work in plenty of roads, which give us a chance to cool off and relax. They can customise the route for a group wanting mostly hardcore dirt riding, but you'd need to be exceptionally fit, and somehow I don't think that's us. It's the final stretch today as we head for Siem Reap, home of the world famous Angkor Wat temples. So while it might be our final day of riding, there's still some sightseeing to be done too in later episodes. Plenty of unpredictable water crossings as always, and a few TTR 250s go under yet again. A lot of guys open up the airbox on these older style bikes, but man, when bikes are going underwater so often, you can see why the manufacturers tend to restrict the airbox intake and often put snorkels in there. Usually we could get the bike upright just before too much water got in. Our Cambodian support riders were always great with the kids who gathered round, especially when the drone came out. And I must give a plug for our professional drone operator, Davin Jones from Arise Aerial Imagery. I asked him if I could use his footage and he said of course, no charge, no obligation. Cheers mate. This long, muddy section was great fun, but hard work. And talking of drowned bikes, guess who finally dunks the WR450F? Yep, there was a rider briefing just before we headed out, but I missed the important message because I was off filming something. Those rice fields off to each side look like they are only a foot deep. Nah. If we ride into there, only the handlebars would be showing.
Just trying to do this feet up. Good practice. Good body control. Awesome. Oh! I was about to say the local guys really know how to use their body positioning to balance nicely in this shit most of the time. So you will have more body control standing, but if you're not confident, you are much better off sitting and paddling with your feet. The way this guy is up front, whoever it is. Yeah, go feet up, it can go badly. I don't know if I got that on camera, but what a fucking dumb move. I bloody turned around to film Chris, and I think the bike stalled and I lost my balance, and the bike temporarily went under, but I don't think we've drowned it. She started again. Fucking dumb. Fucking dumb. Ah!
Hey, I'm kind of glad I didn't film my fuck up. The bike was actually upside down in the rice paddy for a few seconds before I lifted it up. And then I'm chest deep in water, holding the bike up, thinking, shit, I've got all my camera gear in the backpack, but I can't move. Thankfully, Chris stopped quickly and pulled the bike up. But I suspect I've killed my handycam as it's wet and stopped working. Dope.
Okay, I'm not drowning my bike again.
usual, we have regular stops in the shade to cool off and relax. A few viewers have asked if we got sick, but far as I know, everyone was fine. Every lunch was done on the track by our support team to keep everyone healthy. And the tour guys only choose hotels with good kitchens, so the big free breakfasts were always excellent. We were responsible for our own evening meals though, and the guys usually gave us recommendations for the best places to eat in each town. And amazing value. Often you could get a meal for less than $3 Aussie or really lash out and spend $6 and eat like a king.
Oh, roads. Here and there we've got to do long slabs of bitumen, but it's still like an enduro cross track sometimes.
We know we are close to the end of our journey when we get to Tonle Sap Lake, which is seasonally inundated and links up with the famous Mekong River. It's also our last chance for some beach riding, so an impromptu race is organised and we're off. So while this isn't our last episode, it is our last riding day. And man, what an adventure it's been. Many have asked if I'd recommend the trip to them. All I can say is watch the vids, decide for yourself. It's rough, hot, and probably the most fun you can have with your clothes on, in my opinion. And then you get spoilt rotten most nights with accommodation you probably couldn't afford back home. But whether this trip will be your cup of tea, I'll leave it to you. And talking of posh hotels, another nice one in Siem Reap to finish our riding, along with another classy pool for the post-ride beers. Well, that's the end of the riding. I hope you all enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed the riding. The next day we visited the famous Angkor Wat, which was a great way to end an already amazing experience. Interested in riding Cambodia? These guys also offer adventure tours now on their Honda Rally fleet, if you want to take it easy. Me? I can't wait to see Cambodia that way as well.